Welcome YouTube to another D&D Fridays. This week we have something really cool going on today. So we'll be talking about the Paladins. So stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, as always, don't forget subscribe, hit that notification bell, and don't forget to comment down below and to share to all of your friends and family. With further ado, let's talk about the Crusades today.
I thought we were talking about paladins.
There might be some paladins in the Crusades. so, so as mentioned, the paladin is really that big, burly, or dexterous person of righteousness, either following some sort of god or virtue or something of that nature. Um, and a little bit of tidbit of knowledge is, as a paladin, you don't have to swear an oath or follow a god. You can swear an oath to some sort of ideal or something like that, as per like the oath of vengeance, which we'll talk about later, is a big name of that. So that's definitely something cool to keep in mind whenever you want to build a paladin. So when it comes to paladins, they're they're pretty much all going to be melee fighters, melee martial classes with a little bit of spellcasting to help really boost up their martial prowess. So when it comes to paladins, think of stuff like the Crusades and stuff like that. These holy warriors of sorts. Little focuses a little more on martial prowess than clerics. So they do get their proficiencies in their wisdom and their charisma, just like clerics, and they're pretty good. They get also proficiency in basically everything, all armors, all weapons, all shields. So that's pretty good for survivability. They get their D10 hit dice, second only to the barbarians. And they get some really interesting stuff as they level up through all of the levels. So, for instance, one of their most popular features is Lay on Hands feature. You get a pool of 5 times your paladin level, and you can use any amount of that per long rest to heal somebody by touch. So they're really known for some really good burst healing, as they have up to 100 points of healing at level 20, which is cool. They get their own fighting style from like defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, and a few others from Tasha, so you can really mix and match depending on your playstyle. You get spellcasting, so you're considered a half caster, so you only get up to 5th level spell slots, but still, you're more or less going to be focusing on your sword or axe play per se.
Right.
And one of the biggest things is Divine Smite. You get to, on hit, you get to choose to burn one of your spell slots. It doesn't matter if it's your paladin spell slots, if you multi-class into a bard, a warlock, whatever, just a spell slot. And it deals a d8 plus a d8 times the level of the spell in radiant damage up to a maximum of 5d8 with a 4th level spell slot. So that's really cool. You get to really hit, see if you hit first, then you get a good hit. Alright, I'm going to burn spell slot and do some really good damage on this hit. And the good thing about that is if you happen to score a natural 20 or a natural crit on your weapon attack, the Divine Smite damage, that is doubled as well. Those dice are doubled, so it's really good. If you happen to have a spell slot on the crit, use that spell
Use it.
slot.
Use it up.
Mhm. And then, of course, paladins get divine health, so they are immune to disease. So they're one of the very few classes that get that. So they can walk into a virus or disease-filled camp and say, "Yeah, all this doesn't bother me one bit." And of course, they're probably their most popular class feature is the aura of protection. Right when you get it at 6th level, this aura extends out to 10 feet from you and moves with you. And once you get up to 18th level, and in terms of paladin levels, it extends out to 30 feet. And yourself and anybody, any ally within that aura's range, get an extra plus X to their saving throws, where X is your charisma modifier. So, being that charisma is one of the stats that you really need as a paladin, everybody within that aura is automatically going to get your charisma mod onto saving throws, which include death saving throws. That is amazing. That I've seen it so many times that it turned a failed save into a successful save.
Yeah, having that extra bonus is always useful.
Yeah, and especially in higher tiers of play where the dangerous stuff coming from enemies do come from a save and throw, from like Finger of Death and Disintegrate and a Dragon's Breath and stuff like that. So having any sort of boost to your saving throws is going to be a lifesaver.
Absolutely.
Yes, I've seen some paladins with crazy plus 15s to their charisma saving throw because of this aura.
Wow. That's
So pretty much
a
at
good
that,
plus.
yep, at that point it's going to be very difficult to banish you.
Yep. Yeah.
So let's take a look at some of the subclasses that the paladin has to offer. So the first one comes from the PHP, the Oath of Devotion. So these paladins are very much devoted to what they believe in, their ideals, and what embodies their life per se. So they really focus in on that, and honesty, compassion, courage, that type of stuff for their compadres. So they get a couple of cool stuff throughout their tenure. So, for instance, one of their channel divinity options is Sacred Weapon. So basically, as an action, you can infuse a weapon, and for a minute, you add your charisma modifier to those attack rolls, which is pretty good, especially if you happen to be great weapon fighting.
Yep.
So that's definitely going to be very, very useful. And it also sheds a little bit of extra light, and it makes it a magical weapon if it's not magical already. So for overcoming those resistances, so that's a neat little perk of it.
That. I think that's a really nice little perk, especially as you start getting into the middle early levels. 6, 7, 8. And if you haven't found another weapon and you're still using your +0 weapon, it and you started coming up against some of those tougher enemies. I think this is a really nice little added benefit there to make sure that you don't get completely run over and some of those slightly harder encounters. In those middle early levels.
Yep, I agree. And I also get a couple of nice little spells as well. Like Protection from Evil is and good. A little niche, but when it comes up, it's a pretty good spell. Flame Strike, Dispel Magic, Freedom of Movement. So they get a few nice spells. And then also, in addition to that, on 15th level and beyond, they're always under the Protection from Evil and Good spell. So if they're ever coming up against an undead or whatever fiend or whatnot, that is a really good perk.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So next up I think is probably is a very good tankier Oath of the Paladin, the Oath of Ancients Paladin. So this Paladin really focuses a lot more on nature, the natural element, and just the planet Earth as a whole. So they get a lot of things that you would typically see and find more with the Druid and the Ranger classes. So they get some interesting stuff for spells. So they get a little bit more AoE and mobility. So in things like Misty Step, which is a good spell, Moonbeam, Ice Storm, Commune with Nature, Tree Stride. So a lot of cool, interesting, nice little spells there. And I think probably what a lot of people come to this class for is their 7th level aura, where starts off at 10 feet, eventually getting up to 30 feet, and you and any ally within that aura range has resistance to damage from spells. So those fireballs, those ice storms, those meteor swarms, scorching rays, all that stuff is start going to do. It's going to start doing half damage or quarter damage, depending on if you make your save.
That is a really good aura.
Yep. Now, one thing to note with this aura, though, is it makes you resistant to damage only from spells, not magical effects. So things such as a dragon's breath and maybe some of the lich's regular attacks or something like that. That's still going to be doing their full damage. So definitely keep that in mind when using this power. But if you happen to be a Yuan-Ti race or pick up a Holy Avenger later on to get that magical effects for advantage on those sort of stuff, that's definitely going to make you a lot tankier.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a lot of cool stuff, and if you plan on getting into a lot of the nature stuff, but you don't want to play a druid or a ranger or even a nature cleric, then this might just be the class for you.
Yeah.
So the next oath that we're gonna get to is quite possibly my favorite. Is definitely my favorite oath, and probably one of my favorite subclasses in the game. The Oath of Vengeance Paladin. So the Oath of Vengeance really swears this oath to take vengeance or revenge on some sort of person or group or whatever for whatever reason, and they value eliminating the greater evil over whatever else is going on. And this is just such a great class. Just starting off with the spell list, they get some really good stuff from Hunter's Mark, Whole Person, Misty Step, the ever so amazing Haste spell, and Scry, Dimension Door, and more. I don't think there's a bad spell on the spell list.
There's a lot of good spells on that list. A lot of very useful spells
Yeah.
on that list.
Yeah, this really helps to bolster either the mobility of the paladin or the offensive pressure of the paladin. So it's really good. And go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing. Yes, it is very good.
Yeah, in addition to that, probably the greatest channel divinity of the paladins, I think, is the Vow of Enmity channel divinity. So basically, once per short or long rest, you can use your bonus action to designate any one creature, and for the next minute, as long as you're not incapacitated, you have straight advantage on all of your attack rolls against that one target.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Automatic advantage engine right there.
Yeah. So you're definitely going to start seeing a lot more crits, a lot more of your great weapon master hits, a lot more of your good opportunities to lay down a divine smite really come up with your Vow of Enmity. But if I had to say anything negative about that, I would say that it's such a shame because other channel divinity after your enemy isn't a bad channel divinity option itself. It's just the Vow of Enmity is just that good.
Yeah, it's just that good.
Yeah. And to make things even better, some of the Oath of Vengeance other stuff really compounds down on that Vow of Enmity power. So for instance, on 15th level, they get Soul of Vengeance. So basically what that does is once you target somebody with your vow, whenever that person makes an attack, as long as you're close enough to them, you can use your reaction to make an attack against them. So it's like really good. Now you don't have to worry about using your reaction only for opportunity attacks. Now I can make
Right.
an attack whenever they make an attack. So it's a really good subclass, and it's really cool to RP this whole sort of vengeance quest as well. And
Absolutely.
to me, when I think of an Oath of Vengeance Paladin, my mind, the first place my mind goes to is the movie Gladiator and the character Maximus Decimus Meridius. It's just following his story.
Impressive. You remember his entire name. Very impressive.
Yep. Whenever you play that character, you got to go with the full name.
But yeah, his character arc in that movie, I think, definitely fits very well with this type of paladin. There's a little bit of difference there, right? He wasn't a religious guy to begin with, and he doesn't turn into an angel when he hits level 20. But the rest of it is very much aligned.
Yep. This is probably the closest you can get to Maximus.
Yeah.
So next up, we're going to take a look at some of the stuff within Xanathars. So the first one is the Oath of Conquest Paladin. So this paladin is all about ruling over others, whether it's in fear or whatever you might want to flavor your conquest paladin to be. And it's all about conquering somebody or a group of people and keeping that rule over them. So they get some really cool stuff for their spells, such as Hold Person, Spiritual Weapon, Dominate Person, Cloud Kill, stuff like that. And the whole mechanic behind this subclass revolves around the fear mechanic. So, for instance, their aura on 7th level, um, of course, like other auras, it starts out with 10 feet, makes it way up to 30 feet eventually, and if any enemies are under the frightened condition while in that aura, not only are their speed reduced to 0, but they also take psychic damage equal to half of their paladin level as long as they start their turn within it,
Mm.
which is, I think, pretty good because now they can't move, they can't do much of anything, so they're just stuck there. And if you want, you can just say, "All right, I'm just gonna wait my fair timer out and just let them take this tick damage while I focus on somebody else."
True.
And a cool mechanic to combine this with is the Wrathful Smite spell that all paladins get. Bonus action cast this. Next attack you make, the target has to make a Wiz save or fall into the frightened condition, and that's good because frightened generally means that you have disadvantage on your ability checks, and on following turns to break out of the frightened condition from the Wrathful Smite spell, you have to make a Wisdom check. One of the very few fear effects that actually goes after that ability check and not an ability save and throw, which is really good.
Yep.
So a nice little combo to throw in there. So I think this particular spell is necessary within the Oath of Conquest Paladin.
Yep. Yep.
And then, of course, on 20th level, they get Invincible Conqueror. So, as an action, they can transform into this avatar. And basically, for a minute, not only do they have resistance to all damage, they can essentially make 3 attacks because if they take an attack action, they can make an additional attack on top of that. And they get one of the champion fighters' abilities where they can crit on a 19 as well as a 20.
Yep.
So that really doubles down on really going in and striking fear in the hearts of your foes.
Yeah. That I like how they've pulled in some of the fighter characteristics here at the level 20 for this paladin. I think it just makes perfect sense because as you're working through, right, like you said, it's a more of a fear-based sort of character, and then all of a sudden at level 20 you can't stop him, right? You're just terrified of everything and anything that this paladin can do. So I really like that extra flavor there at the end.
Yeah. And I think it's, especially if you happen to hook this paladin up with the Holy Avenger to get the magical effects advantage on saving throws, it's going to be very difficult to stop this paladin in battle.
Oh
Very
yeah.
difficult.
Yes.
The next oath we have is kind of different from the last two oaths that we've been talking about, as it's the oath of redemption paladin. So this type of paladin is all about redeeming themselves, redeeming other folks, giving that second chance to people, instead of just immediately going to smite evildoers. So I think that's a kind of an interesting flavor on things. So they get a few interesting spells from Whole Person, the ever amazing counterspell and hypnotic pattern, and even Wall of Force, which is an amazing spell that you usually see on wizards. And they get some cool stuff, like for instance one of their channel divinity powers is a misery of peace, which basically says, once you activate this for the next 10 minutes, you have a +5 to all of your persuasion checks, which you're already going to naturally be good at. So that's really good. That really amps up your social RP stuff quite a bit.
Yep.
And then also another cool level thing is their aura, 7th level aura. As long as if anybody within their aura range ever gets damaged, they can use their reaction to magically take that damage instead of that ally. Of course, any additional effect still goes towards that intended target, but to be able to really increase your tanking abilities and your support abilities for your party to take that damage that was meant for somebody else. It's really good. It just means that as a Oath of Redemption paladin, probably more so than any other paladin, really want to invest in your constitution a bit more.
Yeah, I really feel like this aura on this in this subclass is its keystone. Being able to use your reaction to tank for the rest of your team, I think is just it's an amazing ability, and like I said, the focus point of this subclass.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. And especially since one of the fighting styles from Tasha's allow you to pick up a couple of cantrips from the cleric spell list, you can easily say, all right, I'm going to turn the Oath of Redemption Paladin into more of a spellcaster instead of a martial class like every other paladin, and focus really just on your constitution and your charisma.
Yeah, absolutely. It would basically turn the paladin into a cleric, but being able to take 1,000 points of damage.
Yep. Basically a less spell slot, but a lot more HP cleric.
Exactly. Exactly.
That probably does a better job of tanking.
Oh yeah.
So they get some cool stuff, and I think Wall of Force to help set down some sort of battlefield control type of thing is definitely handy, especially with their 20th level ability. So I think that's pretty cool. Cut them off so they kind of forced to come through you or your Raging Barbarian or something like that, and then just take whatever damage is meant for that Raging Barbarian.
Yep.
So next up, we'll be taking a look at the different subclasses that came from Tasha's for the Paladin. So the first one that comes here is Oath of Glory Paladin. So I feel like this subclass is a lot more about that appeal to the crowd type of thing, like maybe your gladiators or your athletes, stuff like that. Um, one of my one of the places that my mind goes to in terms of characters for this subclass is in case anybody knows, All Might from My Hero Academia. I kind of feel like that character kind of has some tendencies to the Oath of Glory in some ways, just being that very charisma out there type of folk.
Is that another shout out for anime fans? Is that
Yeah, yeah. It's the geek life. We gotta keep it geeky.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm a little bit of a normie over here when it comes to that stuff. So
But the Oath of Glory gets some good stuff. For spells, they get a decent spell list, not the greatest, but pretty decent. They get some stuff like Guiding Bolt, Enhanced Energy, Haste, Flame Strike, and a couple other decent spells.
I really like the early heroism for this guy. I think that's an earlier good early spell.
hmm Yeah, Heroism is a pretty good spell, definitely. And they get some good stuff like one of their channel divinities is whenever they use their divine smite, um, they get to pop this use of channel divinity, and you can spread out 2d8 plus your level, paladin level, and temp HP towards any ally within that 30 feet. So it, so that can be pretty decent. Temp HP is always good,
Yeah.
although the larger your party is and the later on and the later level kind of peters out a little bit in terms of the amount you can give any one person, but it's still good to be able to get some added temp HP. And I think one of the cool things is their 20th level ability, Living Legend. Basically, as a bonus action for a minute straight, you get advantage on all charisma checks, which is amazing, as well as whenever once on each of your turns, when you make a weapon attack and miss, you can you can turn that miss into a hit, which is pretty good if, in case you really need to hit somebody.
Yep.
And then also, if you fail a saving throw, you can use your reaction to re-roll it and use the new roll. So basically, kind of like an indomitable. So,
Yes.
so overall, I think the Living Legend feature is pretty good.
Yep. I think it's a good capstone here too, for
Yeah.
sure. Uh, one slight negative in my opinion about this subclass is the aura that the paladin gets at seventh level. Um, it's nice, right? It basically will allow you to increase your speed by 10 feet. You and your allies within the 10 or 30-foot radius, depending on sorry, excuse me, the 10 or 20-foot radius, depending on your level. But compared to some of the other ones that we've already gone over, seems a little lacking.
Yeah.
But I think that's just more of an opportunity to say, to know going in, to be prepared going in on what are the other things that you need to bring to the table when you use this subclass to build your character.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I kind of think that the Oath of Glory definitely lends itself a little bit more to a lot of the RP type of stuff, unlike a lot of the other subclasses of Paladin.
I would totally agree with that, right?
Yeah, which,
Uh,
which isn't a bad thing, just something to keep in mind with if you want to play this class.
yep, exactly.
And then for our last oath, we have the Oath of Watchers from Tasha's. So this oath is all about keeping vigilance over the different planes and cities or whatever you want to flavor your character to be, as they're watching over and helping to be that beacon against other folks, other invaders, that type of stuff. So they get some good spells such as detect magic, moonbeam, counterspell, scrying, hold monsters. So they get some pretty decent spells off of their spell list, which is pretty good, especially counterspell. That is I think counterspell is probably the greatest spell out there. Uh, unless you're in a campaign where there's no spellcasters, then of course it's not going to be that great. But as long as there's spellcasters, it is an amazing spell.
But if you're playing D&D, you're probably got some spellcasters that are coming your way.
Yeah, might not be in the first couple of levels, but you're going to meet up with them at some point. And as I always say, it's better to have counterspell and not need it than not have counterspell and really need it.
Absolutely. That is very true. Very true.
Because I've definitely seen a few times before where uh, a very good use of counterspell really turned the tide of battle.
Mm, yeah. There's probably quite a few examples out there of that.
So, so they get a few good stuff. So first off, one of their channel divinities, which I think is very good. Um, they can basically use their action and any number of creatures they can see within 30 feet up to their charisma modifier, which includes themselves. For a minute, those chosen creatures have advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. Combine that with their aura of protection, it's going to be hard to have those creatures really fail any of their mental stats.
Agreed. Very much agree. That's a very good channel divinity.
Yeah. Uh, and I think if you know you're going up against like an enemy spellcaster or a mind flayer or something like that, pop that off as soon as you can.
Good as you can. Yep.
As that is going to save some lives in those types of situations. And I'm kind of glad that they just kept it to those three, because I think if they included Constitution saving throws in it as well, I think it would have been too OP.
Mm.
But all in all, it's pretty good. Uh, Also, another cool little feature that I think that the Oath Watchers get is on 7th level their Aura of the Sentinel. Basically, anybody within their aura range of 10 feet or eventually 30 feet, um, including themselves, whenever they roll initiative, they get to gain a bonus equal to that initiative roll, equal to their proficiency bonus. So at this level, it's automatic +3 to to your initiative roll, and eventually getting up to +6. I
Yep.
think that's amazing for anybody, especially for martial characters, battlefield controllers. You know, those types of folks are really going to appreciate that.
Oh yeah. Yes.
And I definitely think that the Oath of Watchers Paladin is probably one of the best Paladin subclasses. Probably right after the Oath of Vengeance, because they just have a lot of good support mechanics for the team while not really taking away from their offensive melee pressure.
Yeah.
So all in all, as a whole, I think the Paladins are a really good melee martial character. They offer a lot of great offensive utility, a lot of offensive pressure, and a lot of good um, support type of features in terms of their auras, aura protection, stuff like that. And I think for the most part, all of the Paladin um, capstones are really pretty good, especially compared to other classes capstones that are really bad to boring. I think the different avatars that they get on 20th level as their capstones are pretty good.
Yeah.
So all in all, I think paladins are great. I think everybody should play a paladin at some point or another, and I I think they're amazing. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. No, I think the paladins are very interesting class to play. I think there's a lot of good options here. I haven't played a paladin personally, so I don't know, which one would be is my favorite. But I think for those that are wanting to try, any one of these would be very very fun and interesting to play. And depending on how much, you know, more role playing you want to do, extra on top with the Oath of Glory Paladin, well, we'll leave that to you guys.
Yeah, and I definitely think that depending on the play style that you want to play, definitely think that there's an oath for you. Like, if you want to be more of the offensive paladin, something like the Oath of Vengeance, the Oath of Conquest, to a degree, Oath of Watchers would really fit that for you. If you want to be the supportive Paladin, I think the Oath of Redemption, Oath of Watchers, Oath of Ancients would be a good fit for you. And I think if you want to be kind of like that RP type of Paladin, I think Oath of Redemption, Oath of Glory, maybe Oath of Devotion would be pretty good on that front for you.
Yeah.
So, all in all, play a Paladin at some point. And that brings us to the end of the Paladins. Uh, as we continue to shed light on everybody's darkness with the Paladins. And until next time, when we take a look at the Rangers class, keep your lives geeky, folks.
Bye, everyone.